Yo, what's up guys? We're a few weeks into Diablo 4's Lord of Hatred expansion, and today I wanted to put together a big list of tips and things you might not be aware of that you can do with endgame crafting. Now, I've already done a beginner's guide to crafting if you've got no idea where to start, but today I want to go into some more in-depth stuff and some niche things you might not have seen. Things with tempering, with using the cube, finding certain aspects or uniques, and creating your BIS items at endgame. So let's get straight into it. I'll timestamp everything if you want to jump around or if you want to come back to this later. Okay, let's start first by talking about uniques. So uniques do not have fixed stats. So what do we mean by that? We mean all of the affixes are random. So if you see someone say, get this ring, it's really good for your build, and then you look and you get it, and theirs has crit chance, crit multiplier, damage, loads of cool stats, and you get yours and it has just a bunch of random stuff, you've just got unlucky. So one of the things I would get used to doing and learn how to do is flipping uniques fast. So if you are hunting bosses, this can take a very long time, and if you run out of keys, it's going to be even harder. So one thing you can do is save up if there is a specific slot you're looking for. So we'll stick with rings. If you're trying to find a unique ring, every time you do, any sort of content, Hell Tides, War Plans, whenever you do your Tree of Whispers, save all the ancestral rings that you get. And if you're still leveling, save the normal ones. Save everything you get. And you can also, if you don't have any and you want to do it right away, you can also use the obols, the murmuring obols. So you could go here. And another thing I need is a new mace. So I'll go to one-handed maces, which is just here, and I'll get a couple of these. So we've hit an ancestral, we've hit another ancestral. This is pretty good. We've hit 3 ancestrals, right? So then you just come to the cube. And what you can do is you can strip these down. So we'll use these 3 maces. You can strip these down to be normal quality. So we can go here, we can remove affix, and we can just go 1, and you'll have loads of these materials. You'll have no shortage of this. Strip these down, they'll turn down from rare to blue. Strip them down again, and they'll go normal. You see, we just made it normal. We'll do it with this one as well. We'll just take this one out. We will remove affixes, and we'll strip them all down to be normal. Even though they're going to go down to normal, they are going to remain as ancestral gear. So it will still have the ancestral tag. You can see it's still got the white shiny sparkles at the top of it. Once you have it down to common, you can then upgrade it to a unique. And to upgrade to a unique, you just need this. You need these enhanced primordial dusts, and you need a common item for that slot. Because we're using an ancestral, the unique we get will also be an ancestral. So if we transmute, you can see we got the Herald's Morningstar, which is really nice, which is exactly what we wanted. So let's take that. We've got a max roll. We got 100% on it as well. So we'll do it again with this one, and we'll upgrade to unique, and we hit it again. So because you're playing the class that you are, so I'm on a paladin. Because I'm on a paladin, there are only so many items that can roll as a unique paladin mace. So that is a much better way to roll your uniques. If you're trying to farm things, it can be very difficult. If you're trying to use the boss trophies, it can be very difficult. But when you're trying to hit a specific slot, there's not that much that can roll in that space. So this is a really good way to do it. And once you've done that, you're going to have loads of uniques, and then you can see the stats on them. This one has weapon damage, life on hit, and a crit damage multiplier. This one has damage multiplier, life on hit, max life, weapon damage, right? So there's some good stuff on some of them, but they're not perfect. So what I would do is I would keep doing this and keep rolling these ancestral pieces to try and hit one with really good stats. So I've just done this again, and I've got a third one, and I would say these are all average. There's nothing amazing on any of them. None of them have a great affix. One thing you can do now is you can 3-2-1 them. So you can put 3 in, you can go recycle uniques, transmutes 3 of the same uniques into a new version of that unique. So we'll recycle it, and we will press transmute. And now we've just hit one with weapon damage, strength, life, and life on hit. I mean, this isn't amazing, but it's a double greater affix. So this is a really good way to try and hit the unique you're looking for with really good affixes, because this is what turns a unique from an average one into one that is build changing. So something like this, if you don't have really good multipliers, really good crit, things like that, the actual core thing at the bottom might not be better than a normal legendary. So that's the first thing. The next thing you can do is, if we're looking at this, and let's say this was perfect, let's say this was our perfect one, and it hit a real stinker of a aspect at the bottom, the unique aspect where it says blessed hammer deals 86% increased damage. If that was really bad and everything else was perfect, the item isn't bricked, because what you can do is you can do a power reroll. This uses these things here, these attuned primordial dusts, which you'll get as you just keep playing. Don't just keep saving things. You'll get loads of these in full. So what we do now is we go, okay, this has got an 86% and we want 100. We'd do a unique power reroll. We'd click this. This will bind it to your account. And you can see we just hit 80%, which is lower. We do it again, and we hit 80 again. This is terrible. We hit it again, 88. And you can just keep doing this, assuming you have the stuff, 98. So now I would say, this is a pretty good item. We've just hit 98%. We've got okay stats. So you can find your BIS just by crafting. And that's a really good part of the game where you don't have to just sit farming boss keys and farming bosses. So hopefully that one helps a lot. Okay, next up is something that everyone should be doing, and it's really, really important that you might not be aware of, and that is on your amulet, you can get 2 aspects at the bottom, the big orange thing at the bottom, you get 2 of those on your amulet with no risk. So when it comes to transfiguring items, this is the chaotic final thing you do to the item. It does a random thing to the item, and then it freezes it, so it can never be changed. It makes it unmodifiable. And what you're going to do is you're going to accidentally brick your items, like me. You can see here, this was a pretty good hammer, and then I transfigured it, I forgot to socket it, and now I can never socket it again. And you can see there, it says unmodifiable in red at the very bottom. However, with your amulets, you can do a transfigure that still leaves them modifiable, but gives you a second aspect. So that's why everyone should do it, because there's no risk. So if we come over to our materials here, you can see we use these things, the volatile primordial dust. You should have loads of these. These come, you get loads and loads as you play the game. But then you're also going to get these Coolian tuning prisms, which are a little bit rarer. You see, I've still got 15 and I use them all the time. So if we put this in, what this does is use to influence the transfiguration outcomes in the cube, adds a random bonus legendary aspect, and allows the item to stay modifiable. So what that means is there's no risk. So we can take this item here, which is a pretty okay amulet. It already has an aspect on it that I want. And then I can do this. It won't change that aspect. It will keep my aspect as I have it, and it will add another one. So if we do this, you can see now we have another one at the bottom. Distant enemies have a chance to be stunned, but we can do it again. We can roll it again. That's not great for my build. We can do it again. Now what do we have? Casting a skill heals you. Pretty good, not perfect. Do it again. That's terrible. We roll another one. Casting a skill heals you, and you can just keep rolling until you find one you like. You have a 120% chance to gain 1 frosty when you crowd control an enemy, apply a stagger. Maybe that's going to be perfect to your build, maybe not. You can keep rolling to try and find one you really like, but that's something you can do. Okay, now I want to talk about how to get a greater affix temper guaranteed on every single item. So when we look at an item, say the shield, the thing above the orange is the temper. You can see it says 59% crit strike damage. And if you're a new player, you might not understand the value of tempers. They are really, really important. And if you hit a greater affix on your temper, it becomes much higher. So for example, here's what a greater affix temper looks like. A normal one. I've got 5 maximum resolve stacks, right? That's okay. 5 maximum resolve stacks is pretty good. If we look at this item here, I have 12 maximum resolve stacks because we hit a greater affix, it's got a star, and then we masterworked it. So you can go from 5 to 12. The difference that makes to your build is unreal. So here's how to make sure every single time you roll an item, you get the greater affix. So let's take this shield again, for example, and we have crit strike damage as our temper. Crit strike damage is our temper, and it can roll between 30 and 50. It's masterwork, so it could probably go a little bit higher. If we greater affix it, if we hit a greater affix when we temper it, it will be around 100. So that's what we really want to do. Now, the problem you're going to see is if we go offensive and then we go crit strike damage down here, I'll remove my face for this so you can see. It says existing affix will replace temper rerolls remaining 3. And now you might think, well, I only get 3 chances. So if I land on something, if I land on 50%, I might stay there because I don't want to risk bricking my item, right? There's this button here, reset the item. What this does, it uses a scroll of restoration to replenish your temporary rolls. So you think you've only got 4 chances remaining, you've got way, way, way more. So you see that says 3. If I press this once, now I have 4 chances, and you can just keep doing this. Again, 5 chances. You can just keep doing this. Oh, it's grayed out because 5's the cap, but when it goes down to 1, you just put it back up to 5. So you can roll it indefinitely. The only thing you have to worry about is using your materials. That's the only thing. So if I do a reroll now, you can see I've got 59%. We just hit 50%, which is lower. We can put it back up. I got 5 chances again. Now run it again. We just hit 75%. So you can see we just hit a greater affix. So we've just got a greater affix on our temper. So there's no risk to this. There's no reason not to do this as long as you have the materials. And look how much better that looks. You go from 50 something to 75. As long as you have the materials, there is no downside to this. And those scrolls of restoration, you're going to get hundreds. Like I say, I do this on all my items and I have nearly 500 left. So yeah, definitely get doing that. Okay, let's talk about getting a really good aspect roll through bartering. What is that? Well, aspects are the things at the bottom, these orange things, and they can roll within a range. You can see here, the Arbiter Zephyr can roll between 1.0 and 3, and we've rolled a 2.4, which is pretty good, but it could be better. So the way you do that is you find gear with that on, you take it to the blacksmith, you break it down, and then it goes into your collections. It goes into here, and it's saved in your Codex of Powers, and you can see it in here. When you get a max roll, they go yellow to say you've got a max roll. You've got 21 out of 21. You've got the max roll. 50% is the max. So you've got a max roll. And then you can imprint that on your gear at the occultist forever. So finding max rolls is really, really important. So the main way is just go and find gear and break it down. But there is a better way to target this, and that is through the barter system. So if you come here, it's just right of the cube. You've got these people, and these are from like a previous expansion. They should be available to everyone. If not, let me know. There might be a quest you have to do with them to introduce yourself to them. But these are your mercenaries. And if you go on your character, you will have a mercenaries tab at the top, and you pick your mercenaries. And a lot of people never go in here and look at their rapport. So rapport is how much they like you. And the more you play, you gain this passively. I have 4 with Vajana, and if I go with the tank guy, I have 27, right? These are like the marks that you get for just playing. And if you've played for a long time this season, you're gonna have loads of these as well. So what you can do is you can just click this a bunch of times and you redeem these points. So I've just gained hundreds of points. You can now go to Fiera, who is right here, and this is bartering. And what you can see here is they will sell you gear. And already this is a pretty good item. That's a pretty good item. Crit strike damage, physical strike multiplier. That's a pretty good axe, right? But what you can do is you can respec this for free every so often, and you can now see you have these aspect caches. And you have movement aspect cache, defensive aspect cache, and salvage materials cache, which is pretty good. So let's say we are trying to find a really good roll here on Arbiter's evade cooldown. This is a aspect. What type of aspect is it? Well, we can go in our collections log, and we can go into the Codex of Powers, and we can type search, and it's Arbiter. We just type Arbiter, and you can see we have the aspect of the Arbiter Zephyr. We click it here. And if we go down defensive, offensive, resource, utility, mobility, it sits within mobility. So it's a mobility aspect. And you can see we have a 2.4 and we want to get better. So we would go to this person here and we would buy the mobility aspect cache. We'll buy one of these. We'll respec the shop. I've got 1,700 of these coins. And I did a bunch of this yesterday as well. You can buy keys here as well and masterworking materials, etc. Open these caches. We will get legendaries that have those aspects on. So we got 3 here. We'll do another one. We got 3 more boots. And all of these aspects are going to be mobility aspects that when you go to the blacksmith, you'll just come here and you will just run over these and you're just, you can just mark them all as junk. You can all junk, you destroy them. And if any of them were an upgrade, it would say, you upgraded the aspect. So that's a good way to try and farm the good aspects and good rolls on your aspects. Okay, next up, how to get really good rolls on your tier sets. So when we look at our tier sets, you're farming for your tier sets. You can do that. And you're going to get them very early on as you get into endgame. But when you get them, they could have very bland stats on them. And what you can see here is you can get really good stuff if you roll them. So you can see we've got +3 to aura skills, +2 to core skills. We've got 10% max life. We've got disciple skills. So depending on your build, if you're playing something that uses a core skill, if you had +3 to core skills, +3 to core skills, plus all on your gear, that is a huge damage multiplier. So what you would do is you make sure you're going to the occultist, and when you have these, these charms, you salvage your charms. So you just get rid of the ones you don't want. So you just, you can mark these as junk, and you can just junk with charms, and that's going to give you the items that you need to roll the charms. Then you would go on to re-roll set charm. You would find spare charms of the ones you've got. So for example, all these I've saved up here, you'll chuck them in and you can see this has nothing really on it. You would use the things we just got. You get millions of this, and this is what you get for salvaging. So the infused resin. So we will re-roll this and it will re-roll the charm to something else within our set. So it's going to be, this is the Lights Epiphany set. It's going to roll to another Lights Epiphany set. So it's going to roll to a different, picture maybe, but it will also roll the stats. So if we transmute once, you can see we got nothing good. We can transmute again, nothing crazy, and you can just keep doing it. We just turned it into an ancestral, which is pretty good with 7.5% armor. Really good. We hit a greater affix of cold resistance. Maybe you want that on your build, maybe you don't. And you can just keep rolling like this. +3 to valor skills. And eventually you're going to find something you really want. Here yesterday, I hit a double greater affix. So 2 greater affixes. So you can get some really, really good stuff. When you then go into your core skills and you go into the skills that you want to boost up, you can see here, this has the skill I'm using, 27 out of 15. And that's what you're going to look like. And most of that is coming from the tier sets. Okay, now for a tip to help you craft your BIS gear so that you don't accidentally ruin really good items. So when you have a piece of gear like this that drops, it has 1 greater affix and it's pretty good, right? It's a pretty good item. It has 1 greater affix and you want to craft with it. You want to turn it into something amazing. You want to take it from something basic into something really good with all the good rolls that you want. Well, there's always the risk that you're going to lose the greater affix. You're always going to, you might accidentally remove the thing you really want. So if you put it in here, Crit Strike Multiplier is one of the best affixes in the game right now for lots of builds. I now want to add another offensive aspect to this item. So if I add an aspect and then I go into here and I go to the red one, this is going to add another greater affix. It's going to add, I wish, it's going to add another offensive aspect to the item. So if I do this, add affix, you see now we've added physical damage multiplier. Okay, now let's say we want to take this item. It now has crit strike multiplier, physical damage multiplier. We want to remove the physical damage into something else. We want to turn that into, say, vuln damage multiplier, crit strike chance, a different offensive thing. Maybe we don't use physical damage. Well, if we do a reroll, so if we put this in here and we do a focused reroll, which is going to turn one offensive aspect into another, right? That has a chance to also remove the crit strike damage multiplier. It's going to remove one of those bottom two. It's going to remove the physical or the crit. We don't want to do that. We don't want to risk losing it. So what we can do is we can come over to the occultist. We can go to enchant. We can put it in the enchanter and you can see the thing. So we've got the physical damage multiplier here. We can press this and we can see what it could be. It could be holy damage, vuln damage, lucky hit, crit chance. It could be lots of other things that we might want in our build, even all damage multiplier. So how can we lock the crit strike multiplier? Well, we enchant it. Now, this sounds completely counterproductive and it seems like the complete opposite. What enchanting does is it rolls this into something else. But there is a trick. Once you have an item and you choose to roll it into something else, that slot is fixed and unchangeable. So if we were to take this item and we say, we're going to roll the crit strike multiplier, we're going to enchant it. So we go to enchant and we click enchant and I'll hide my screen for this so you can see everything. So we go to crit strike multiplier and we press enchant here and we press accept. We now see we can turn it into shadow resistance or resource generation. But we don't want any of those. So we say no change. Materials won't be refunded and we say no change, replace. So now what you see on the item is it has the crit strike multiplier with it's got a little blue circle. And that means that item is in the process of enchanting. It's being enchanted or it's had an enchant already. So it now cannot change. We cannot move that aspect. We cannot move that affix in any way, which is great for us because now when we come over to the cube, and we put this in the cube here and we do a focused reroll where we want to put an offensive aspect on something, we want to change our offensive aspect into something else. It can't take the crit strike damage because it's locked. So if we transmute this, you can see now we are rolling everything but the crit strike damage multiplier because we can roll the other things away. So the physical damage multiplier, the vuln damage multiplier is now on there, but the crit strike damage is locked and can't change. So we can now keep doing this. We can keep rolling this as many times as we want. We've just hit max life and strength. We roll again. We've got vuln damage at 11%. We can roll again, and we can do this as many times as you want. You can see here, look, we've got all damage multiplier 6, crit strike damage multiplier 31, which is a greater affix. It doesn't show it, but it's a greater affix, which is why it still has the star on it, even though it's not got the star next to the affix. And we also have a vuln damage multiplier. So we just made a really, really good ring with, just by locking that one thing. So yeah, I wanted to show this because there's a lot you can do with it. And, as you start looking into the cube and the affixes, there's a lot of different little tricks you can do. But this one is definitely something you can use to really improve the gear you're finding. And once you start masterworking this and temp working it, it's going to be a really good endgame ring. Okay, I forgot to talk about this one, but it's how to get plus to skills on your gear. So lots of gear can roll with plus to a certain skill. So let's say plus to core skills, plus to falling star, plus to a specific skill. If you go to the occultist, and if you don't know how this works, just go to your enchantment window, put any piece of gear into the enchantment window. And what you can do is you can see what can roll on that gear, right, in different slots. So for example, if you take, say, a helmet, if you put a helmet in and you look at what can roll, view possible affixes, you can see, if you come to the bottom, they can roll skills. It can roll plus to Aegis, plus to Falling Scar, plus to Rally, plus to Shield. And that is because all of those abilities in the skill tree are within this run. So you've got Aegis, Shield Charge, Rally, and Falling Star. They are Valor skills, which means helmets can roll Valor skills. And similarly, if we get, say, a piece of legs, so I don't know if I have any on me, I've got a chest piece. If you put chest pieces in, you can see, if we go here, the chest pieces can roll the auras because auras can roll on chest pieces. So certain slots for certain classes roll on certain pieces of gear, and you can just chuck any random, and that's all chest pieces are going to do the same. Similarly with feet, like on a barbarian, the feet can roll the shouts, and on a paladin, they roll these things here: the spear, the purify, the consecration, condemn. So specific parts of your skill tree will roll on specific pieces of gear. So always look what can roll on your gear. Now, how can we make sure we get that, right? How can we always get that? Well, what you do is you put the piece of gear in the cube and you go add affix, or you would, re-roll an affix if you already have one that you want to re-roll. You would re-roll or add, and you would go to the yellow one, which is skill and core stats. And you might think core stats is just strength or dexterity. It can roll a skill if, and this is the important bit, if a skill can roll on that item, which what we just saw, certain ones can roll certain skills. So on the helmet, we put this in and we add an affix to this and we transmute, it will bind it. Yep. We just rolled strength. We don't want strength. We're trying to hit a skill. So we'll do a focused reroll, which will roll from one of a certain thing to another of a certain thing within the category. So it's going to roll a skill or core stat into another skill or core stat. So we'll do a focus reroll and we've hit +3 to shield charge. So if you're using shield charge, that's great. And you can just keep doing it like before. You see, this is, you don't use many of your materials. You just need these things. And we've just hit strength again, and you can just keep re-rolling like this as many times as you want. +3 to rally. Maybe you use rally. I don't know, but that's going to really help you get extra stats for your skills. Big damage boost that I don't think enough people know about. So yeah, hopefully that helps. I could make a few little ones, but that's the big things that are hopefully going to really help you tailor your gear. You're going to see people with these crazy good gear, and you might think it's unobtainable, and you're farming in maybe tier 5s and 6s, and you're not finding any, and you're feeling like you're falling behind. Well, this can help you get there without the RNG. You can actually physically craft things that are going to give you that damage boost and help you push into the late game, where you can then start farming this really good gear. So yeah, I hope you find it useful, a bit more in depth than before. It's a bit more complicated stuff than maybe the basic guide. If you found this completely overwhelming and you've got no idea what I'm talking about, I'll link my basic beginner crafting guide down below and you can go start there. But yeah, that's the video. If you found this useful, if you like how we go through things, do consider subscribing for more. But thank you for watching. Take care. I'll catch you in the next one.